Morning cometh, night also. Pastor Russell's last written sermon. Watchman, what of the night? The morning cometh, and a night also. Isaiah chapter 21, verses 11 and 12. The literature of the world shows that intelligent men have refused to believe that the divine purpose in the creation of our earth has yet been attained. Continually we find references to the morning of the new day, to the golden age, and so forth. Not to the longings of men's hearts, however, but to the promises of our God do we look for real instruction on this subject. The Bible most emphatically declares that the entire period of human history thus far has been a nighttime. The prophet David explains, "Weeping may endure for a night, but joy cometh in the morning." Psalm chapter 30, verse 5. Thus, prophetically, we are assured that there will be a morning whose glory, brightness, and blessing will fully compensate for all the dark shadows of the nighttime past. Our text is another prophecy along the same line. The message of the Lord is, "The morning cometh." St. Paul writes that up to his time the world had been under a reign of sin and death, and not under a reign of righteousness and life. Romans chapter 5, verse 21. He also points out that the day of the Lord will come gradually and stealthily, taking the world unawares, as a thief in the night. 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verses 1 through 6. All of the apostles assure us that it is not God's purpose to permit the reign of sin and death to continue forever. They tell us that the divine program is that Messiah will, in the Father's appointed time, take unto himself his great power and reign, King of kings and Lord of lords, putting down sin and every evil thing, and lifting humanity up, and granting a divine blessing where for 6,000 years there has been a divine curse. The Bible writers explain that this does not signify a change in the divine program, but that God had purposed this thing in himself from before the foundation of the world, and that although he had permitted sin to enter and death to reign over the children of Adam, he had also made fullest provision for the Redeemer to die for our sins and eventually to become the restorer and life-giver to Adam and his race, to as many of them as will accept everlasting life on the divine terms. The apostles tell us that during the night time, since Jesus' death, God has been doing a special work, selecting from mankind a special class, a saintly few, the church of the firstborns, whose names are written in heaven. These are not taken from any one nation or denomination, but this little flock to whom it is the Father's good pleasure to give the kingdom is composed of all the saintly followers of Jesus who walk in his steps in the narrow way during this gospel age. Their experiences are to qualify them for association with their Redeemer in his messianic kingdom. Their trials, their obedience, and their sufferings for righteousness' sake are to work out for these a far more exceeding and eternal weight of glory. Suffering with the Master for the truth's sake in the present life, they are to share his glory, honor, and immortality in the life to come, and to be joint heirs with him in his kingdom. The kingdom sunrise nearing. Among the Lord's people even, few yet understand that Jesus distinctly teaches that the Son of Righteousness, which will arise, and whose light will constitute the new day, will be composed of the Church of Christ, glorified, changed from human to divine nature by participation in the first resurrection. Jesus tells this in the parable of the wheat and the tares. He declares that in the end of this gospel age, all of the wheat class will be gathered into the heavenly garner, and then shall the righteous shine forth as the sun, S-U-N, in the kingdom of their Father. Matthew chapter 13, verse 43. We must not think that this signifies the church without the Redeemer, but must remember that Jesus is the head of the church, which is his body. Ephesians chapter 1, verses 22 and 23. How wonderful, how beautiful, and how appropriate are the word pictures of the Bible. Ah, they are inspired pictures. No one but the Lord knew of the great divine plan. No one but Him, therefore, could give these pictures of its development. The Bible, in various terms and similes, attempts to give us a little glimpse of the glorious conditions of that new day. It and the kingdom will be the desire of all peoples. In that day the righteous will flourish, and evildoers will be cut off from life. During that 1,000-year day of Messiah's kingdom, Satan is to be bound, that he may deceive the nations no more. Revelation chapter 20, verses 2 and 3. Landlordism will come to an end, for they shall not build and another inhabit, they shall not plant and another eat the fruit thereof, but shall long enjoy the work of their hands. Isaiah chapter 65, verse 22. The earth is to yield her increase. Streams are to come forth in the desert places. The solitary places are to be made glad. The entire earth is to become like the Garden of Eden. It is God's footstool, and He declares that He will make it glorious. It is not to be burned up with literal fire as we once supposed. It is to abide forever. Ecclesiastes chapter 1, verse 4. He formed it not in vain, He formed it to be inhabited. Isaiah chapter 45, verse 18. Wonderful foregleams of light. But the most wonderful thing the Bible tells us respecting that new day is the great intelligence and enlightenment which it will bring to every creature. The light of the knowledge of the glory of God shall fill the whole earth, as the waters cover the face of the great deep. Isaiah chapter 11, verse 9. And they shall teach no more every man his neighbor and every man his brother, saying, Know the Lord. For they shall all know me, from the least of them unto the greatest of them, saith the Lord. Jeremiah chapter 31, verse 34. Ultimately, every knee shall bow and every tongue shall confess to the glory of God. What an enthusing prospect the Bible holds out before the church and so many of the world as can exercise a measure of faith to believe. The world indeed sees to some extent that great blessings are coming, but just what these are and how they are to come, mankind know not. For the world by wisdom knows not God. The worldly wise have rejected the Bible and do not trust it as a revelation from God. Thus the wise are caught in their own craftiness. Their boasted wisdom ensnares them and blinds them to the divine revelation. Nevertheless, some of our great thinkers, Mr. Edison and others, are rapidly seeing that the world is just on the verge of the most wonderful inventions and knowledge which will transform the face of the earth and the people thereof. They are corroborating the Bible unwittingly, for they believe it not and know not of its messages. The dawning began in A.D. 1874. Let us not stop now to discuss the darkness of the night and its weepings. Let us awake and take note of the fact that the dawning of the new age is already here. We have been in it and enjoying many of its blessings for the past 42 years. But these blessings came so stealthily, like a thief in the night, that few recognize their import. Some few have been calling attention to the fact that we have been in the millennial dawn ever since the year 1874. Bible chronology quite clearly teaches that the 6,000 years from Adam's creation have ended, 6 great days of 1,000 years each, mentioned by St. Peter. A day with the Lord is as 1,000 years. 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 8. Now the great 7th day, also 1,000 years long, has commenced. We have been enjoying its dawning. It is to be a grand day. What wonder if the dawning be remarkable?